I'm Mina Malik Hussain, and this is the Coffee Table. And today we have an art show, one of my favorite kinds of shows. I'm not an artist, so I think it's always that sort of vicarious pleasure of speaking to people who are artists and learning all about the craft and how is it done and what is the history. And there are certain kinds of art that are practiced in this part of the world which have such a wonderful, rich, historical sort of significance behind them. And I'm so delighted to be talking about calligraphy today on the show. And I think all of us have encountered calligraphy in one way or the other. And it's proving to be a really exciting thing to be talking about today and learning more about calligraphy. And we are so happy to be welcoming on the show Mr. Rasheed Butt, who is a world-renowned calligrapher. He teaches Islamic calligraphy at the NCA, at Fatma Jinnah Women's University, and at the International Islamic University in Islamabad. Rasheed Sahab's work has been featured in the Pakistan Senate, at the Aga Khan Hospital, at Furqan Foundation in the United Kingdom, at Makkah Gate in Saudi Arabia. In 1989, Rasheed Sahab was awarded the Pride of Performance from the President of Pakistan. In 2014, he received a Lifetime Achievement Award from Sheikh Sultan bin Muhammad Al Qasmi of Sharjah, and he has also been a jury member for the International Calligraphy Competition organized by the IRCICA. And we are also joined by Faheem Khokher, who is also a calligraphy artist who teaches at the Textile Department at the National College of Arts and is a designer at Jamal Fabrics. Welcome to the show, gentlemen and calligraphers. This is very exciting. So Rasheed Saab, tell me, when we talk about calligraphy, we are looking at a practice that both has a practical history and is also art. So could you tell me a little bit about how calligraphy, like the history of calligraphy over the world and how it developed and how it's evolved over time?
Thank you very much. Calligraphy is a very vast subject, and especially when we talk about the history of calligraphy, and it's a long one. We cannot cover it in just 10, 20 minutes. And as a calligrapher, if you ask me what is calligraphy, then it's amazing, And when I go through to the Islamic history, just think that the first revelation comes to the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. Almighty mentioned calligraphy in the first revelation. Just see the grandeur and the height of this great art.
Yes.
He said, "Ikra wa rabbukal akramul lazi allama bil kalam, allama al insana ma lam ya'lam." So he mentioned kalam. The kalam is our main instrument in Islamic calligraphy, right? So, and then he put one chapter in Quran in the name of kalam, Suratul Kalam, it's in the Quran. Unfortunately, in our country, people even didn't understand the height and the grandeur of the calligraphy, and even not the government, I mean, not in the society, because I'm working as a calligrapher for the last 6 decades, and I have a great, experience in my country and around the world. Calligraphy, I feel that I am the luckiest person that my Creator chose me to write His divine words, So, it's unforgettable things I witnessed in my country. And if you see the history, calligraphy or any kind of art promoted by the dynasties. Or you can see the capitalists, they promote art or something like that. But in these days, in our country, the capitalists just interested in their money, not about the, you can say, the art. And as I have a different experience,
Yeah. But don't you think it's interesting, Rasheed Saab, if I may interrupt at this point, do you think that it's interesting, and I'm now that you talk about, and I'm looking at capitalism in a kind of sense of utility, that calligraphy started out in that same dual way, where you had calligraphers who were, for example, with monks and illuminated texts, who were creating these beautiful manuscripts using calligraphy. But then there were also other ways of doing calligraphy that evolved out of a need for more kind of practical writing, like clerical work or copying the Quran, for example. And that's how, like the Kufic scripts, for example, and, having to make coins and doing inscriptions on stones. So there's always been these kind of two strands of calligraphy that sort of have been coexisting from the very beginning.
It's, it's when in Islam there's a banning of portraiture, then the Muslim artists, they convert themselves in different arts. Yes. Some artists gone to geometric pattern. Some artists convert themselves into illumination, yes. The floral patterns. And the calligraphy and the illumination is just like integrate with each other, Yeah. And without calligraphy, illumination is not on that step. When we come with the calligraphy, it looks beautiful, If you go to the manuscripts, from the old masters, it's amazing,
Yes.
I would love to mention, I was invited in Dublin by the Chesterfield Library. They have very precious kinds of Quran, old Qurans, and the Western people, when they go to the museum,
yes,
they ask many questions to them that how Muslim artists they do that, So then they invite some very expert people around the world, and they make us 5 to 6 minutes visual. And when they open the museum, they put the visual on, so there's no need for anybody to question, So this is their love with the art,
Yes.
So
that's wonderful. And I want to cycle back to the illuminated text, but in just 1 second. Faheem, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hello, welcome to the show. So Faheem, I want to ask you some sort of basic questions about calligraphy, for example. And I know that, again, calligraphy has evolved in lots of different cultures over time. So, we're looking at Chinese. The Chinese have their own way of doing it. The Middle East has its own traditions. Persia and sort of, Spain has its own calligraphy traditions. So when we're looking at, let's say, the subcontinent in South Asia, because, that's where we are, what are the different kinds of techniques that we use to do calligraphy? And what kind of pens, for example? Do you need a special kind of paper? Things like that.
First of all, I'm very thankful to you and all of your team. I feel very glad to join Profitable.
Thank you so much. It is our pleasure to have you.
So, thank you. And then calligraphy, mostly the illumination. I start with the illumination, and Sir is talking.
No, but talk to me first. Tell me first about. Sorry, I'm interrupting you because I want to start at the basics first. So do you need a special kind of paper to do calligraphy, for example, when you're doing it on a proper professional level? And sort of what kind of equipment do you need? Do you need special ink to do it?
In the past, we don't have them. No, in the past we don't have any mechanical machines, and they use the local culm, and they make with the reed stick and the bamboo sticks, and the ink came from the Khokher is the black stone. They use the black ink came from the Khokher, the Black Mountains, and the Hazrat Musa, so in the past they use a handmade paper and the handmade column, pen for the writing. So that was very amazing. So in this into 2021, we go to the bazaar and buy a pen. So this is very easy for me. So when I thought in the past, so that was very difficult, and they do much more better than me and the others. So that was surprised me.
So do you think that, and I was reading about the paper, for example, and how there used to be a kind of handmade layered paper, so that if you made a mistake, you could scratch it out. Because the paper had those layers, then you could, it was a kind of like a way to erase mistakes. And also sort of having to work over a light box. What is that about? Why do you have to do it over that?
I work on Vasli. Vasli is a totally handmade paper. Mostly the Persian artist or the Persian miniature paintings or the manuscripts draw on that, the calligraphy on the Vasli. So that was a handmade paper. So that was very beautiful mechanism. Layers of paper make a thick paper, and then you draw on it, and then you work on it. So I think the current situation is that they use the glue.
Oh, okay.
And when we use a thick pen, so we see there's so many defects and so many errors in the calligraphy. So in the past, they are very smooth and some smooth surface and so many other material they use in the to making a paper. I'm very surprised about the Jabir bin Hayyan who invent the fire saved paper. So
wow, fire saved, that's amazing.
For because we followers of Imam Jafar Sadiq and for Imam Jafar Sadiq to save the Quranic and the holy verses and the quotes of Imam Jafar Sadiq.
Right. That, and this is like centuries ago, and they were making fire-safe paper back then, which leads us to illumination, because we are looking at texts that are serving two purposes, and one is being beautiful and being art that can be carried on through the ages, but also a source of information. And I think that is a wonderful juncture to take a very quick break on. Stay with us. We'll be back in a flash. Welcome back to the coffee table, where we are having an illuminating conversation about calligraphy with Rasheed Bhatt Sahab and Faheem Khokher. I loved it. I did a pun on the show. So before the break, we were talking about the sort of different techniques that we use for calligraphy and sort of what material is required. And I personally found that, Faheem, when you mentioned how a lot of ink was made from stones from Khokher, where Prophet Musa went to talk to God, and I think to me that it's just magnificent, and it really sort of calls home how wonderful and complex calligraphy as an art is. And we've been talking about Islamic calligraphy, which is, of course, a specialty of yours, Rasheed Sahab. And so tell me a little bit more about the illuminated text, which we keep sort of coming back to, because I'm really interested in how calligraphy has been, the illuminated text or the manuscript has been a way of preserving knowledge, but at the same time making it beautiful. And the whole fact that a lot of Islamic calligraphy is copying out verses from the Quran. It gives it's obviously, it's safe to say that the very act of even copying the Quran, even if it's for something really practical, like making a copy of the book, becomes something more than just copying, doesn't it? It's a multifaceted, it becomes like an act of devotion, which is also artistic. And I just find that really beautiful.
Mr. Faheem was talking about the paper and the illumination. The paper we used in calligraphy, it's a handmade paper. And then we prepare properly with the egg and some other elements, for their long lasting, and especially the ink. Ink is also made very specially for the calligraphy ink, for the long lasting, for the centuries. The paper will remain the same, and the ink is still there,
Yes, you're
and
right.
shape of the paper, for archive, it's we take care because one sentence in Arabic poetry, they said about the calligrapher and about the calligraphy,
Yes.
The al-khattu yabka zamanan ba'da katibihi. When the calligrapher writes something, it will remain for the centuries, for the centuries.
Yes. The katibul
khat. وَكَاتِبُ الْخَطِّ تَحْتَ الْأَرْضِ مَرْفُونٌ. Who write that, he is buried, in the graveyard, So
yes.
we
your
try our best to, there are different kind of columns, the material, we use in calligraphy, especially gilding, when the illumination we do, especially in previous time, the calligrapher is doing just the calligraphy, and the illuminator is doing the illumination, and the gilders, there are specialized people, they convert gold leaf into powder, and then they use, and then they burnish, and then it comes, for the centuries we can do. If you ask me a little bit earlier, I can show everything I have, but unfortunately, you didn't mention that you are.
Oh no! We will have to have another show.
Yeah. I have all kind of material with me, the different kind of columns around the world,
That's wonderful.
And people just think, that the column is just take the, and make it and write it.
Exactly. Take a read, sort of snippet, and.
Special column, they are so expensive. One column is need to $30, So when you make first time, then it remains with you in a working condition for years.
Yes.
So if you ask me any other kind of question, I'm available,
Yes, many more questions. I have got lots of notes. So, I'm also curious now about, there are different kinds of, and if we're just talking about Islamic calligraphy now, and by Islamic we mean we don't mean one region, of course. So there are lots of different kinds of scripts that have evolved over time as well. I've got some written down, but if you can sort of tell me a little bit about the kind of differences, like for example, I know that Nastaliq is one script that has evolved, and that's how we write Urdu, and that's a Persian-inspired way of writing it. But then there's also Naskh, and there's the Kufic script, and how all these sort of Perso-Arabic scripts have evolved over time, and also the evolution has depended on the use also.
I will tell you a little bit about the history of calligraphy. When Islam came, at that time in Mecca, very little people were able to write and able to read. Okay, and the script at that time they used what's called Hiri. Hira is a huge area in our world. And that was civilized area. Many countries come in that, and that's why they call Khatahiri. Okay.
Right.
Then, for the period of time, calligraphy was developed by the caliphs, by the calligraphers, by the Sahaba, the companions of the Holy Prophet upon him, and especially in Hazrat Ali Karamallahu Wajh's time.
Yes.
There are some queries and questions, because a lot of area come into Islam, and they ask that it's very difficult for us to read that Quran, which is, written in Makkah or Medina.
Yes, because it didn't have a lot of punctuation.
And then Hazrat Ali Karmal Wajh put dots on the letters. Before there's no dot. Yeah. Right? So then it comes, and the Ajmis, the people who are not non-Arab, they see that okay, it's easier now.
Yes,
But
because
if you
for
come
non-Arabic
little bit
speakers, you need those applications to know how to read it properly.
yeah, a little bit later in Umayyad,
Yes.
the era, there was Khalifa Abdul Malik bin Marwan, and he put a committee. At that time, some companions of the Holy Prophet were alive. He make a committee and ask them to sit and put the haraka. So for Ajmis to be easy, okay? Then there is a big debate going on, and they put harakas there, zabar pesh, and then it develops in that time. And after that, in 4th Hijri, there was a person called Ibn Muqla. He was minister in Abbasi caliphs, for two, three caliphs, and he was very scholarly person, and at the same time he was a calligrapher as well, and then he created 6 styles in calligraphy.
Oh, okay. So why was there a need to develop these different kinds of calligraphy? Was it just an artistic, or was there a practical reason also?
Yeah, at that time when he created Sulas, then Nas, then Rika, then Diwani, and then, 6 Muhakkik.
I have
and
it
then
now.
The Nas especially he created to write for Quran. And you can imagine that he created in 4th Hijri of the Islamic. Now, till today, everybody writes Nas in the Quran. It's easy to read.
Yes.
And then after that, in 8th Hijra, there was another person, Mr. Ali Tabrizi, who created the 7th or 8th script, Nastaliq, which we write here in subcontinent, And he belonged to Tabriz. Tabriz was in Persian.
Yes,
Persia,
of course.
But he lived in, at that time he was in Baghdad. So the Iranian, they thought that, it's our script, and they take that script, Nastaliq, to use to write their Persian. Then in Nastaliq came in subcontinent in Mughal period, when the Iranian calligrapher.
And the Mughals were also sort of coming at a cultural tradition as well.
And the Mughals, the official language was Persian.
Yes, so of course they were writing like that.
Afghani calligraphers, they came here, and they did a marvelous work here in subcontinent,
Quite right. So at this point, Faheem, so does that mean that Nastaliq is the script that is most commonly used in this part of the world? And from what I understand, Nastaliq was also the script that was used for non-Quranic calligraphy, because not all calligraphy is copying the Quran as well. There's also sort of literary or just artistic kind of calligraphy. So is the calligraphy that we learn or that we practice in the subcontinent, is that mostly Nastaliq based, or is it more Naskh based, or everything goes?
I am totally agree with the Barsa, but I want to add something.
Yes, please.
I think cave art pictures were made in the mountains thousands of years ago, arrive in our region in the form of Hate Kufi, Hate Shakista, Hate Sulas, Hate Diwani, and the Hate Nastaliq. So Nastaliq is very complicated hat in the history of calligraphy. I think Barsa know better than me. So in the first Quran was written in the Kufi calligraphy. So there is very interesting background of Kufi calligraphy. Hazrat Ismail alayhi salam had 12 sons, one of whom name was Nayabut. The Nabatean tribe was named after him.
Right.
So they were gypsies, but in the 2nd and 4th century, as they ruled as far as the northern Arabia and the southern Syria. So they were not fighters.
Yes.
So the Romans attacked and defeated them.
Yeah.
So after which the Nabateans settled in the area of Hera and Ambar. They
Yes.
used the Khat Nabati. And the Khat Kufi is invented based on the Khat Nabati.
Right.
In the 4th century, when the time of then
yes.
I am agree with after the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, 5070 to 632. So come revelation began to be written. Sahaba learned this letter and began to write revelation, and so the Quran was first. Gigi?
No, carry on.
Quran was the first written in the Kufi script.
Yes.
So Birmingham Quran is the example of the oldest Quran.
Wow.
So
Birmingham.
when people Birmingham Quran. So there is no there is no zabar and no
there's no
dots
punctuation, which is fine because
exactly.
If you know Arabic, then you know where it goes. But what is really fascinating to me, Faheem, from what you and Rasheed Saab have been sharing with me, is that this way of writing and this script has been passed on over centuries. And do you think that the form, Rasheed Saab, maybe you can tell me about this, is that has the form changed? But Rasheed Saab, what I'm curious about is also how this art form and this way of writing has been passed down over centuries. So how does one learn calligraphy? What are the rules? And has it changed over time, or does the script that we see now, does it still look the same as it did in 4th or 5th or 6th, century after Hijri?
Okay, great. Mr. Faheem was telling about the Khokher and this and that. Look, listen. Khokher is, some people think that it's a pre-Islamic state. No, it's not. Because Kufa city was invented in 17th Hijrah when the Hazrat Umar was caliph.
Right. Okay.
And then when the Caliph Ali Karmallah Wajh shift the capital from Medina to Kufa, all the ministers, all the scholars, they come.
They went
Kufa,
along.
And
yes.
Then they changed the name. They give the name to calligraphy special style, because it's developed.
Yes.
The Kufic script. Kufic script has a different kind of variations, It's not just
there are lots
one,
of different kinds.
Kufic,
right.
Some Eastern Khokher, Western Khokher, there's a lot of things, in one style, in Khokher, of more than 50 variations, you can write on it. And then, he was talking about the Nastali. Nastali was invented in 8th Hijrah, right, by the Mir Ali Tabrizi.
Yes,
then
like
it comes in subcontinent in Mughal period. Okay.
Then
you said that Quran was not written in Nastali. Yes.
But I'm curious about is at this juncture is that this form has endured over centuries, and do you think that it is evolved over time? Because it is, the hand, everybody's hand is different as well, and sort of, I suppose what I'm asking is, how does one learn calligraphy, and are there rules to do it? How does that happen? What is the transmission from teacher to student like?
Look, the calligraphy has different styles, and every styles they have their own rules and regulations.
Okay.
It's very easy art to learn. It's not difficult to learn. The people make this stuff, it's very difficult. It's not. I can make a calligrapher in 1 week.
Ooh.
and I challenge you everyone. It's very easy to learn, right?
Yes.
So, but to be a master, it takes time, when whichever you field choose, to be a master take time. But to learn, for example, to make a portrait or sketch, it's not easy to learn in a day.
Yes.
So take time, So some people, in this, in our society, they publicize that, calligraphy is a very difficult art. We cannot learn. No, it's very easy. And I face, I face some other problems. In our country, unfortunately, people, as this government says that everywhere is a mafia, and mafia is also in the art as well. If you meet young people, they will show you what they are doing, what they happen with them. Look, they said calligraphy is not art. The calligrapher is not artist. It's a craftsman. And if you take the word art, the book word art, take the book, word art is a huge book. When you go to the Islamic section, Islamic art, calligraphy is on the top.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, in this country, it's a very strange kind of country where we are living. We are living in a hypocritic society. We are saying something else, we are doing something else.
It's true, but I think that what you're saying about people not considering calligraphy or taking it seriously is so unfortunate, because we've been talking about the history behind it and the technique and the mastery behind it, which has endured over so long, and we haven't even, I think, scratched the surface of it. And it just seems so sort of intellectually ridiculous to then brush calligraphy under the carpet and say that, oh, well, I don't understand it, or it's not a big deal, or we're going to take a very quick break at this juncture, but stay with us. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back to the coffee table, where we are having a fascinating conversation about the art and the history of calligraphy, especially in the subcontinent. And we are in conversation with Mr. Rasheed Bhatt and Faheem Khokher. So now, Faheem, as a practicing calligrapher, what is the scene like now with calligraphy, at least in this region? Do you feel like people are showing an interest? Are people not showing an interest? Like, before the break, we were talking about how people seem to think it's very difficult and they don't want to learn. But, what is sort of, as an artist and as a practitioner, what do you feel like, how is, the scene these days with calligraphy? What are the opportunities?
I think we have no platform to improve ourselves being a calligrapher, I think. So NCA offer a diploma, it's 1 year diploma. Minimum 30 to 40 students are participate in it. So after they graduate, they have no platform, such a kind of exhibitions, and they improve yourself, and they work with the famous artists, and there are no platform. So I think I know a boy. He work in the Khokher Niaz Beg. So. His name is Mia, and Mia and Bin Kalandar is a class fellow. So I think the idea makes you the precious. So the ideology, what you think, how do you paint, how your style, what is your innovation. So I think these kind of material or these kind of things make you the higher ranks.
Yes. That's very important, is that there aren't very many opportunities for calligraphers to practice their art. And I think that, and maybe Rasheed Saab, you can weigh in on this, is that a lot of calligraphy is artistically represented in a sort of, there are a lot of artists who use Islamic iconography or Quranic verses and make art out of that, which is wonderful and very beautiful. But I'm also thinking of other artists who have used calligraphy in non-religious ways and worked it into their art. And of course, I am thinking about Sadiqain, who has used calligraphy to such wonderful effect in his work. But one wouldn't classify him as a sort of as indulging in religious iconography. But at the same time, he uses calligraphy in such a modern way. And I think that's maybe one really interesting way that artists can look at calligraphy as a supplement to their art. And I know that you were friends with Sadiqain, so tell me more.
Yeah, thank you very much. You mentioned great artist, Mr. Sadiqain. He was a friend of mine, and we worked together in 2-3 projects. Right?
Wow.
I call him Murshid all the time. He's a great artist as a human being, a fantastic, wonderful human being, right? He said that we cannot beat them in conversation. We cannot beat them in talking,
Yes.
And the whole day I was thinking, how can I beat them, right? And I reached one conclusion. Then he said, I reach in this conclusion that kill them with the work.
Very good.
Do more and work and kill everybody. Nobody will talk about you.
I love it.
And then, believe you me, in that for 3-4 years, he was also working everywhere, and I was having exhibition around the world.
Yes.
And think about till 2000. The buyers of my calligraphy, 95 to 96% was non-Muslim. What happened with that? The Western people, they look at the piece first aesthetically.
Yes.
Then they ask me, is it from the Quran? If I say, yes, it is from the Quran. Can you translate it, please? If you like, they have the piece. But in Muslim countries, they take calligraphy in religious aspects. They put, put on the wall. They did not see that in an art form. That this is an art form. But we as a calligrapher, we are spreading Islam, spreading the message of Almighty through our calligraphy.
Yes.
So calligraphy is, He's forced us to go to book for the selection of text is a very important part in calligraphy, selection of text. So we select the text. So it's a spiritual, might be poetry, might be from Quran, might be from any scholar's quotation. We try our best to give a message to the people. So if, for example, I write something for the betterment of the humanity or of the mankind, and if anybody see that piece and understand that and act on that, my effort is, alhamdulillah, is going to be well. The other thing is the awareness of, for example, National College, Mr. Khokher was telling us, diploma courses and this and that. It is just unfortunate. I was invited to teach here in Rawalpindi campus, right? So I went there. I teach there to need to be 6 months, right? They look what they do, what their attitude with the calligraphy. Right? They give me 6 to 7 students of miniature students, right?
Right.
So miniature they teach 5 days a week, and calligraphy they give one lecture in 1 week, right? And
because it's sort of seen as subsidiary. It's good. I really appreciate that they are doing now. Yes.
they produce some good calligrapher, the painter calligrapher, for example, he mentioned the Pinklader's name. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
And he is doing very good. But I think they did not produce a classical calligrapher there. So,
but Rasheed Saab, do you think that makes people see calligraphy as either very difficult, or that there's no sort of scope or market or sort of market really for calligraphy? But it seems counterintuitive because, like you just said, you have buyers from all over the world who can appreciate the beauty of a piece done using the calligraphic form. So what do you think that is? Do you think that's just that we are too casual about calligraphy, or we don't understand the delicacy of it, and that's why people don't want to learn it? Or students of art don't want to do it?
In these days, I am very happy that, our young generation, they would love to learn, and if and they come to me, and they come to any calligraphers around this country, and even, just imagine, I go through the history. I'm telling you one good thing, about the calligraphy. Just think when Granada was fall in Spain. In one city, there was 10 to 15,000 ladies were calligrapher. They are doing calligraphy.
Wow!
Now you come in Islamabad, you find a calligrapher. Might be you can count on fingers. So because it's a problem with the colonialism, when the Western came, conquered the subcontinent, they imposed their subcontinent. So they took calligraphy and any art related with Islam, they put it behind. So special people here in this country, they promote that calligraphy is very difficult. No.
Yes,
no,
that's not
and
true.
No. I can challenge anybody, you send it to me, I can make him a calligrapher in 1 week.
I love it. I think that I'm going to now get on this and come. No, but thank you. That is wonderful. And thank you so much for also bringing up the fact that it is very much a symptom of our post-coloniality that we have forgotten how to value certain cultural and artistic traditions that belong to us, in a way a birthright. And thank you so much, Rasheed Sahab and Faheem, for taking out the time to be on the show and talk to us about calligraphy. And I feel like there's so much more still to be said. And clearly we still have access to this wonderful art through practitioners such as both of you. And we are so privileged, and thank you for your work. Thank you guys for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time on the coffee table. Bye.